Oklahoma is not only known for locking up the most women in prison in the nation, it has the distinction of incarcerating more women than anywhere in the world. In Tulsa, the Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women has been examining the issue, and now, with the help of the whole community, is working on an action plan to shut down the revolving door that keeps women entangled in the criminal justice system. Childhood trauma and abuse are the common denominators that connect thousands of women who find themselves in prison. That is the conclusion of the Tulsa Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women and the scores of professionals who recently attended a summit and workshop on the issue. Before rolling up their sleeves in breakout sessions, the group heard from presenter Kimberly Cummings, who introduced them to a telling face.
This is 23 years of addiction, abuse, and trauma, completely untreated, undiagnosed mental health issues, homelessness. This is the women that we're locking up.
That was a mugshot of Cummings in 2009. Her appearance isn't the only thing that has changed since she began her recovery.
I am the co-executive director of a nonprofit now called Just the Beginning. I am in a master's program at Northeastern State University going for my degree in criminal justice. I'm also the director of IT with the Mental Health Association Oklahoma. I'm completely restored with my 3 amazing and beautiful children. I celebrate 7 years and 6 months of sobriety. I mean, come on.
Cummings caught a break in the criminal justice system when a judge sentenced her to a diversion program called Women in Recovery. But many others in lockup have had the book thrown at them.
The vast majority of these women are imprisoned for nonviolent, drug-related offenses, and these women pose virtually no public safety threats to our community. The explosive uptick of prison sentencing for female drug offenders is primarily driven by Oklahoma's war on drugs.
Gail Lapidus is the chief executive officer of Tulsa's Family and Children's Services.
Oklahoma also is known to have the harshest penalties of other states for drug possession. Many times we have examples of first offense drug possession defendants sent to prison. The state simply penalizes actions strongly and more forcefully in Oklahoma. Sentencing seems to be more severe in Oklahoma than any other state.
Tulsa's Residence Center serves 700 to 800 women a year, both in prison and those who have gotten a divergent sentence. Deidra Kirtley is the executive director of Residence and a member of the Commission on the Status of Women.
Incarcerating them is not going to make them change. It's not going to make their addiction go away. They'll be incarcerated, released with that same addiction problem, go back to what they were doing, and then end up in jail and prison again.
At the summit, participants were tasked with coming up with solutions for the barriers that set up women for failure. Court debt is one of them. Many women, some who have only been guilty of misdemeanors, find themselves in more trouble because they can't pay the staggering court costs and fines that are levied with a guilty plea. 46-year-old Lilana Reagan ended up in jail this summer for a court debt she took on in her 20s.
I have tried to pay on them, but I just haven't been able to catch up, period.
Do you know how much you've paid?
I done paid a couple of thousands on some of these cases.
Eliminating the debt and reducing fines and fees are action items those at the summit intend to pursue. Betsy Jackson is also on the Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women. She says another action item they are pursuing is establishing a philanthropic fund to help women make bail if arrested for a nonviolent offense.
Bail is sometimes also very expensive, hard to get out of jail, and sometimes you're stuck in there for 40 days for just having a small like nonviolent crime. And so what they did was it's called a community bail, where it pays for your bail to get you out, and then once you've gone through your process and then you get out, then the money goes right back in again, so it keeps rejuvenating itself. So that's something that we're looking into right now.
According to the summit participants, building on the success that Tulsa has seen with programs like Women in Recovery and Residence is also key in reducing the number of women behind bars.
Once they're through the program, we stay with them until release, providing case management support, making sure they have a job lined up, a place to live lined up. So when they release, they have everything they need. Place to live, a job, they're clean and ready to move on.
Without intervention and support programs, the path to prison repeats itself with each new generation.
And we now know that children with an incarcerated parent are 700% more likely to experience prison themselves. And so
Lapidus
you can
says
see
taxpayers
it's right
have
there
a
in
big
front of us,
stake
the
in the
vicious
issue.
cycle.
She says the laws that send nonviolent drug offenders to prison cost taxpayers $500 million a year. The stats are nothing new.
20 years we've been dealing with this issue. We've had all the evidence that we need to make the changes that need to be changed. We really need to stop sitting around and talking about it and take action.
2 state questions designed to help reduce prison overcrowding will be on the ballot when voters head to the polls November 8th. State Question 780 would reclassify nonviolent drug-related crimes from felonies to misdemeanors, while State Question 781 would direct the savings from lower incarceration rates to mental health and substance abuse programs. Law enforcement groups held a news conference this week to urge voters to reject the proposals. Edmond Police Chief Bob Ricks, representing the Oklahoma Association of Chiefs of Police, says the measures would put public safety at risk.
Oftentimes we know who the rapists are, we know who the burglars are, we know who the people of violent assaults are. But in order to remove those people from the streets, oftentimes we have to use the leverage of drug possession. What we are doing, we're removing that tool from our arsenal. We're now making it more difficult to remove violent offenders from the streets of Oklahoma.
Former House Speaker Chris Steele disagreed, releasing a statement saying the reforms would allow law enforcement to focus on truly dangerous criminals by diverting low-level nonviolent offenders to treatment and rehabilitation.